Hi, welcome back to part 2 of the learning module, Attitude Change and Social Judgment Theory. In part 1, you had an opportunity to learn all about social judgment theory. In part 2, you're going to apply what you know about social judgment theory to a case titled Students for a Democratic AU. The case can be found in the description area at the bottom of your screen. In addition to the case in the description area, you also will have an opportunity momentarily to view a news clip from the Fox News station in Indianapolis about students at Anderson University and their protest of the university's alcohol use policy. After you've had a chance to both read the case and view the news clip, you will be asked to discuss 3 questions.
So on the on Fox 59, our Derek Wilkerson reports on a group of students who openly violated the policy in protest.
Thank you. It's perfectly legal for these 21-year-olds to have a drink at a bar in downtown Anderson. However, because they're students at Anderson University, it's a violation of the school's student life policy.
Just have the drink. I felt like we were going to come down here. I might as well.
While many students file into chapel, protesters gather outside Decker Hall to protest the university's policy on alcohol.
The basis of the policy simply states that while students are students, they will not consume alcohol.
The students marched from the Anderson University campus to Kroakerheads bar in downtown to show their frustration.
The reality is that on this campus, the student body has no voice. Our opinion carries no weight.
According to school policy, it's a violation for a student to buy, possess, or use alcohol at any time, even if they're off campus or back home with their family. Opponents wonder why students protest this type of policy at a Christian school.
If you really wanted to go drink, why not go to a public college? It's cheaper and everything, and they allow it.
As a student, when you come to school, like, you sign up, you realize that's what you agree to the policy.
And yes, we all came here with that knowledge, knowing that it was going to be like that, but that doesn't mean that that's fair, and that's how it should be.
The students came here to make a point. Some had a drink, some did not. The question at this point is, what will the consequences be? The university spokesman says administrators are willing to discuss the alcohol policy. Students say they want more than dialogue. They want change that reflects the will of the student body. Derek Wilkerson, Fox 59, News at 10.
In addition to this news clipping, there is a short written case titled Students for a Democratic AU. It can be found in the description portion of your YouTube screen. At the end of the case, there are 3 questions for discussion. Question 1, as head of the newly formed Students for a Democratic AU, and what you know about social judgment theory, how might you develop a strategy to effectively persuade the AU administration and Board of Trustees to ease its policy of the prohibition of alcohol? Question 2, if you were the administration or an organizer of Students to Keep AU's alcohol policy in place, how might you use social judgment theory to persuade Students for a Democratic AU the current policy is appropriate for a Christian college? And question 3, are both Students for a Democratic AU and the administration's ego involvement levels too great, resulting in each group's latitudes of rejection being too large that either group is unable to persuade the other group to moderate their positions? Please pause the video at this time and answer the discussion questions. Now that you've had a chance to read the case, Students for a Democratic AU, and view the Fox News clip, how would you like to be President Edwards and the Board of Trustees at Anderson University, trying to change the attitude and opinions of Students for a Democratic AU? Or vice versa, how would you like to have been the Students for a Democratic AU, trying to change the attitude and opinions of President Edwards, the Board of Trustees, and the administration of AU? You've had some chance now to reflect upon the questions that were asked. Let's look at what some of the possible issues might be. As head of the newly formed Students for a Democratic AU, one would want to develop a strategy to effectively persuade AU administration and Board of Trustees to ease its policy of the prohibition of alcohol. Based on the historical position of AU's sponsoring denomination, the Church of God, advocating a total change or liberation of the policy is probably not in the college's latitude of acceptance. Students would be more likely to be successful with advocating small changes in the policy. The fact that the administration agreed to a forum to discuss the matter is a good indication that the administration's position is not totally black and white. Your answers should suggest small changes to the policy, such as elimination of the clause, students who are present where other Anderson University students are in possession of or consuming alcohol will be considered to have an offense. Other possible suggested changes might be to redefine off-campus to only include Madison County or Madison and surrounding counties. Some of you might believe that the Board of Trustees and the administration have high equal involvement and too narrow of latitude of acceptance. If so, a foot-in-the-door strategy might be to persuade the board to allow a student representative on the Board of Trustees. It's quite possible that some of you might have suggested that advocates of the current policy offer small changes to the alcohol policy to placate students for a democratic AU. These changes would be expected to be similar to those discussed in the previous question. It is highly probable that others of you are more ego-involved with the issue and would argue that the policy is appropriate for a Christian college. If so, your latitude of acceptance would probably be very narrow and would be based on biblical principles, the historical position of the sponsoring denomination, and your concept or definition of a Christian college. I'm not sure where your answers in question 3 might be. I think it would depend on your level of ego involvement. Regardless, this exercise has given you a chance to apply your knowledge of social judgment theory to a real-life case, and hopefully it has reinforced your understanding of social judgment theory. That concludes this learning module on attitude change and social judgment theory. I hope you've learned something, and have a great day. We shall